For more on all of this, I want to bring in Susan now. She joins us from London today. So Susan, good morning. Thank you for joining us. What kinds of environmental damage is Ukraine looking at?
Well, think about all the images you've seen in the last year. You saw that billowing black smoke from one attack. There have been so many. I mean, they're looking at over 2,000 cases. So pollutants going into the air. You've also got burned forests, which are rising emissions of CO2 as a result of losing those really important forests, and also polluting the water, the infrastructure. Russia has made a point of targeting infrastructure. So you see missile attacks on fuel depots and refineries. They're leaking oil and contaminants into the groundwater. So all kinds, a real vast array of environmental damage, which is going to take decades in some cases to rectify.
Trying to hold Russia accountable for all of this.
Well, that's the hard part, isn't it? I mean, the first step is documenting it. So they've had teams in Ukraine going around and taking photographs, taking samples, measurements, satellite photos. A lot of evidence is out there because so much is recorded on social media. And they're putting them into this huge dossier of evidence, which they're looking at forensically, almost like a criminal investigation. And in fact, they're trying to make the case that these are environmental war crimes, that in fact the aggressor, as they call Russia, should pay for them. In fact, this morning you heard Zelensky talk about how the aggressor has to reimburse for all the damages. And he said in the past that includes environment and climate damages to Ukraine. So they're building this case. The problem is there isn't a mechanism, a formal mechanism to prosecute or to force Russia, in this case, to pay. So those are the things that they're trying to work on and come up with an assessment, a credible assessment of how much this would cost in the future to remedy all these attacks, all these damages to the environment.
And Susan, as the Ukrainians work to build that case, how is the international community responding to all of this?
Yeah, it's really stepping up. There are a number of different NGOs. The Conflict and Environment Observatory here in London is one example. They're building their own database, over 700 cases with this NGO in particular. And what's going on sort of at a second level is they're trying to elevate environmental damage as something that needs to be in any reparations that will come to Ukraine in the future. So already this country is looking at, okay, how are we going to rebuild? How much is going to cost, and where's that money going to come from? So they want to push environmental damages up to the top of that list, or near the top of reparations. So it assumes some importance. There was a precedent in the Gulf War when ultimately Iraq was forced to pay Kuwait for damages, and environmental damage was part of that. So they're looking at, okay, in the future, we need billions of dollars to repair this very important part of our war here. And they're trying to make the point that environmental damage is a humanitarian war crime.
Susan, thank you for this. Yet another angle of the devastation that this war has brought. Susan Ormiston in London.